We are back here at the Intel Extreme Masters in PyeongChang, and we had a pretty surprising game number 3 there. Time actually managing to come out with a win. We thought it might be a 3-0, but some of Scarlett's play there early on was maybe a little bit risky, a little bit unnecessary. I think we may see a more conservative game from her coming this time around.
That is possible, but if you get too conservative, too predictable like you were talking about before, that's where Time can strike again and maybe pick up win number 2. But I like that Time showed that, hey, if you are going to play an aggressive game and mess it up, he's going to finish you off. So he's shown he is a fighter. He's in this series. Maybe he can take game 4 and bring us the rubber match.
I will hope so, because I would love to see as many games out of these players as possible. Time is somebody who I would be more concerned about in a more traditional orthodox StarCraft game. And I think that Scarlett's taking note of that mentally here. Now, of course, Time doesn't have to play a normal game. In fact, a lot of these games, it's been Scarlett who initiates and Time who responds.
Yeah.
We could have in Game 4 a situation where Time actually sets up a surprise for Scarlett, tries to throw her off of her game, and that may very well work, because I'm expecting, again, the conservative play this time around here from Scarlett.
Definitely could be here from Time. We'll have to see what his choices are. Anything from pure aggression, all-in moves, to a long and greedy game. It's StarCraft, man. You can choose any way you want to play.
That's right, and in order to be the best, you do have to have a real toolkit of different styles and strategies to come out on top. That's why we make you play a best of 5 and not just one game, is that each game that you play, it's not only about trying to pull off your strategy, you're trying to get reads on how your opponent is thinking about the game, the maps, the matchup, and anything that you can learn there, you might as well bring it into the next game as you try to build up that toolkit to dismantle them and come out with a win, excuse me. And we are now ready to hop into game number 4 here. Right now, Scarlett with a 2-1 lead versus Time. Introducing our players in their locations. In the upper right, in the blue, from Canada, she is Scarlett. And her opponent down in the bottom left, in the red, from China, he is Time.
And once again, Scarlett with a bit more unorthodox opening here.
I am so surprised.
That is a very quick gas and a very quick spawning pool. So, I mean, with an opening like this, you are sure to be aggressive.
Yeah, you know, this is, I know we may have, people that haven't watching who haven't seen StarCraft before, but you just look at the first few buildings and that immediately telegraphs the strategy the player is choosing to go with. And with this setup, this Scarlett is going straight for a knockout blow to get this going.
You know, there's a few different ways that this can end up going. There's speed upgrade on the way for these Zerglings, so they're going to be really, really fast. So with Time, he's going for that early Reaper, which you can micro well against these Zerglings. Right. It could theoretically hold off all of these Zerglings.
If you're ready, we did see him lose that Reaper, though, in Game 2.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If he loses this Reaper, that can almost be game over. And in fact, no wall-in finished here. So those Zerglings could run right in.
Okay. We have to follow this unit right now on camera, because this is going to be the moment where we'll see. Now, in fact, it looks like she's set up to go around it. She
runs around. See, she's waiting for the Reaper to go. She knows when it's leaving. Now she can run up here and possibly even force a cancel on this command center. There's a lot of things that can happen here. Look at this. She's going up. Oh, he closes his wall off. But still, she might be able to break through.
Now there's one Zergling going after the SCV. A note, Scarlett's continuing to make Zerglings here. There's only one Reaper, one unit here, albeit quite a mobile one, to try to hold off this rush for the time being. And we have Zergling speed just now finishing.
Uh-oh, the Reaper ends up going down. A huge moment here for Scarlett, bringing the Zerglings over to kill the SCVs. They are not good fighting units. A ton of damage already being dealt.
And with the rest of the Zerglings now spinning in, there's nothing to defend these workers as they scramble back to the mineral patches here. Looks like Scarlett's going to juke back and try to intercept this Hellion. Can she get a surround on it? No. The Hellion does end up going back, and it's trying to use some of the the workers as cover here.
Oh, Scarlett is all in at this point. So many more Zerglings being made. She's sending these all down, trying to fight. Of course, the Hellion. This can deal damage to all the Zerglings at once. You notice they're getting very low on health. She's running back in, but great control here by Time, keeping that Hellion alive.
Okay, but one other Hellion is boxed in. Scarlett retreats. It looks like she plans to regroup, but first trying to take out this command center that is not yet finished constructing down here on the low ground.
Oh, that Hellion must stay alive, though. More Zerglings coming through. Still, Time controlling this Hellion so well, but that is a lot of Zerglings.
Okay, it looks like we might have a surround, and we do! The Hellion goes down as well as the workers.
Just such aggressive play coming out of Scarlett here. Can she finish off Time? He's lost so much of his economy and his units. That should be just about that. No workers left over for Time.
That's right. The rest of the remaining Zerglings are taking out the few structures that are still in this game. And GG, Scarlett wins with a 3-1 victory.
Wow, what an aggressive series out of Scarlett. Not really what we were expecting. But as we've been talking about, you need to have a giant toolkit to be a StarCraft 2 champion, and she showed a great range of play here so far today.
She really did. Three out of the 4 games involved a pretty wild early on aggressive strategy. And Scarlett, who has been training in Korea for some time now, was getting mostly well known for having really clean econ play, getting into the late game, having all the proper unit sets and techs to take on but just about anything. And in this series, in order to advance further, she completely mixed it up and came in with aggressive style, and it totally threw Time off, especially that last one in Game 4.
He definitely did show some promising moments, though. You know, he took the Game 3 down when she got a little bit over-aggressive. He had some good moments controlling his units otherwise, and it just didn't work out at the end there.
No, it's unfortunate. I feel for him, too, because obviously we've casted a lot of StarCraft games, but even you and I were saying, oh, there's probably no way, for instance, in that Game 4, that she would really try to do that again, considering we were starting to see Time actually catch up.
Yeah. But, you know, that's the name of the game. You don't expect it. I'm sure that Time did not expect her to go completely all in there to risk it all. But she did, and, you know, you get caught off guard one time, lose that Reaper, the game ends.
How are you doing, Claris?
Not too bad, not too bad. Thank you very much. Joining you once again to get things going. And overall, a very varied kind of series coming out from there. Did you expect as much variance coming out from those players?
Well, you know, Scarlett definitely can mix it up, but we normally expect her to play the longer games because she's so good in them. Keeps that aggression on, though, and I think that that's going to put kind of fear in the rest of her opponents throughout the tournament, right? Because they're going to look at her and say, how are you going to play against me? Are you going to rush me down, or are you going to play your normal long games?
Right, I mean, did you expect Time to be able to kind of stem the tide of aggression that was coming at the end there? It looked quite close, actually, with some of the Hellion micro, but the second Hellion dying.
It's a funny situation because you basically have, at one point in time, just one unit to try to defend everything, and you're just trying to buy enough time to get the second unit, in this case the Hellion, out to try to hold. And then usually if you have the second Hellion actually pop out, things can start to stabilize, but Scarlett immediately got the first Reaper and then started taking out that Hellion, and it just started to snowball from there.
Very difficult times there for Time, unfortunately, for him to be able to go up against that. We can actually head over to the interview to find out what Scarlett thinks about that victory.
A 3-0 over Cham, and now a 3-1 over Time. Congratulations, Scarlett. You're having a fantastic start to this event here, especially after the disappointing early finish at Leipzig. How much more does this start mean to you?
I was really excited to go to this tournament, so I really want to get a good result here, and I'm really happy I managed to advance. I kind of thought I would today, and I have a hard match tomorrow, but I'm not in the best shape today, so I'm glad I made it through.
Well, today you were almost undefeated. The only game that you lost was this third map on Acid Plan, so can you walk us through what happened there?
Before the series, he told me he really wanted to win at least one game. And honestly, the build I did, it was kind of like I haven't done it in a while, and I think based on what I saw, I shouldn't have done it. I thought it'd be good for the map, but it wasn't good against what he did. So I lost because of that.
Well, you definitely showed a lot of mercy. You gave him what he wanted, that one map, but luckily you were able to win the other ones and move forward, as you said. So you said you would have a tough opponent tomorrow. Does that mean that you just assume that Cyril's going to be who you're facing?
I think it's most likely. He just won the last big tournament that was played, and he's just playing really well in general. So yeah, I expect to play Cyril next round.
Then I have to ask, knowing that it might be Cyril, what do you think of him as an opponent? Because the last time you played was a while ago now. It was at Yeonchuping where he took you down 2-0. So now facing him so many months later, what do you think?
I think if I'm in good condition, I have a decent chance against him. It's good that I have a Zerg next round. I've been playing a lot of ZVZ, so I hope it'll go better than last time, at least.
All right, well, thank you so much, Scarlett, and good luck tomorrow.
Welcome back to the desk here, ladies and gentlemen, as we can break down what went then there. In that 3-1 situation, Scarlett, representing Canada, advances into the round of 8. Once again, joined by Todd and Nathanius here. Again, Nathanius looks pretty clean cut for the most part there for Scarlett, with just a few blips here and there.
It was a fun series to watch regardless, though. I really liked the way that Time played those games out. His strategies were awesome to watch. Even just that first map, the way that he played it out, the big Hellion push, using the Raven harass, and then showing that he wasn't scared to go to the late game. And of course, that's where we got to see Scarlett show her late game prowess. But I really feel like Time gave us a series worth watching out of this despite the loss.
Absolutely. I feel like he won't get to shine just yet on the biggest stage, but his time will come.
Yeah.
And it should come soon if he keeps on training as hard as he has.
It's impossible for us to not say time as many times as possible to try and elaborate as to what's going on here.
What a timely comment as these games were varying between long and short. That last game, though, it's so painful to watch. Like, as a Terran player, like, it's just one of those situations where you've seen it, you've been in that situation, and it can just... Like, sometimes you get that second Hellion out and you kind of block that spot between where, like, the reactor got blown up, and you just kill all the Zerglings, and you're like, yes, this was a sick hold. I lost most of my SCVs, but the Zerg doesn't have anything. And then other games, they just barely slip by, they get that surrounded, everything comes crashing down, but it's such a scary thing. Like, that's, I don't know, for me, watching that is like one of the most thrilling things that you see in StarCraft, because it's such a do or die situation.
All right. Well, Todd, let's take a stroll as we head over to the screen so you can break down a few of the moments that actually happened in that game, because some important ones.
Absolutely. So here in game number 1, we had this big moment where Scarlett, we can pause it right there just before these Banelings detonate. They were trading very evenly across multiple locations, but Scarlett was like, you know what? I'm going to hit you in 4 different spots at once. So she came here with Banelings, sent some into the natural, some into the main base, and at the same time she struck into that very important base, the healthiest base here that Time had in that location. So we can now play the clip, and you'll see there is action basically everywhere with Banelings blowing up almost half or more of the economy of the Terran player here at this point. And from there, it's just very hard to recover. I mean, Time did do a good job of that, but he just took too much economical losses from that position for him to be able to do really that well. And Scarlett ended up in a position where all she had to do was get to Broodlords, get to that tier 3 army. Here we see a big fungal that's going to land right on top of these guys, and they have a very hard time getting away. They're slowed down, and I mean, this is such an expensive army, right? Like, you can't really replenish these ghost counts from this position here if you're Time.
It's a very heavy stranglehold that she has on Time, it seems, in this game. And also, just looking at the creep spread here, Todd, it's very difficult for the Terran to ever encroach onto Zerg territory.
Absolutely. Like, it's almost discouraging. You know, it's suffocating. You get out on the map and you see that your opponent is doing that so well. It's just hard to deal with. You have to scan, get your army out on the map, but you're already doing so many things. Like, it was a great series of multitask and mind games. Here we see the Nidus coming into action in that second map. That slowed down Time so much. Like, it didn't kill him, and, you know, most Terrans, they would be like, oh my god, like, I'm about to die against this. No, like, Time stayed alive, but that put Scarlett in a very decent economic position because she boosted up her drone count quite well. And from there, we see her assemble the perfect army here, by the way, against this. You see that these blinding clouds over there land perfectly on the tanks, and then it's just the pure bio, which is just in too small numbers to deal with the roaches and ravagers that Scarlett had from there.
All right. Well, is that every clip that you do have available,
or
is there more?
Yeah,
there's a bit more?
There is that one attack here from Time that kind of brought him back a little bit into the series with the map win, where we see the Marines pulled back nicely when the Banelings came in later, but he just had too much regardless, and Scarlett fell in the one map here that she lost, that apparently, according to her, it was just a time switch. He had asked for a map win, and she gave him just that. And now the final map here, the Lings sneaking in, we talked about this, that just can't happen. And then from there, Time kind of fell apart. He lost his Reaper, he lost SCVs, and if you lose everything that you have in StarCraft 2, you lose the game. So that was it.
There you go, that's that. Nathanius, when you go up against someone like Scarlett, is it just to the point now where you have to expect everything because she brings out things like the Nidus attack, things like the macro play, etc.
That's the absolute scariest part about playing anyone like Scarlett, especially any American Zerg players. You see a lot of these crazy strategies that come out, and she is so good at playing the long game that she will be able to play that crazy long game where you have your sensor towers, you're trying to get liberators and ghosts. She doesn't mind going that far,
right?
But she will find that blood in the water and destroy you in the early game if you have any weak spots. And I wouldn't want to have to play against Scarlett on a stage like this. It's got to be almost impossible to keep your cool.
And now looking at the bracket, if we go into that here, we can probably see exactly where Scarlett's going to be with that bracket location, as well as the potential to come for her. So as you can see, she's advanced to the round of 8, and there is either Eggs or Serral that's going to be playing against her, which we all know Serral, a WCS champion now, a very likely mover through into that round of 8, and that could be a massive match.
I think it's fair to assume that Serral is a huge favorite in that series and will likely come through. Scarlett mentioned it in the interview. She actually made it seem like she wanted that match. I mean, her ZVZ's not bad, but I don't know anybody here wants to play Serral. He looked so good at Leipzig last week. I'm kind of scared. I'm scared for her in that series. Like I look at Serral as a player to potentially go through all the way because he just looked that good last week.
What are Scarlett's prospects in this tournament?
I think she looked really good for sure today, and she even said like she didn't feel that good condition-wise. So if she feels better tomorrow, I can expect great things. Eggs, though, I would say like we're already talking like a Serral against Scarlett is a sure thing. Don't sleep on that guy. In the qualifiers, he impressed me quite a bit.
Yeah.
He could surprise a lot of people here. So his first big representation here, representing Colombia. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we actually cast that qualifier. It was a lot of fun, actually, to cast that and see Eggs be able to advance on through. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I'm going to head over this way because we need to update you guys on what happened in the B stream. I am joined by Mr. Kevin Rotterdam van der Kooi once again. What have you got for me, my friend?
Special versus Demi happened, and that's of course on paper a very fun series because it's an amazing opportunity for Demi to finally make it. Perhaps you can hold this for a split second, but for Demi to finally make it to a big international offline event. Great experience for him. We already saw Special in action earlier today when he went up against Panda BME. He looked good. He looked like a real contender, perhaps go very far, even all the way in this tournament. And this series was no different. If Special looked good before, he looked excellent throughout this entire best of 5. So we can take a look at a couple of the highlights. Game number 1, he continued with more of what he did before. He started dropping Hellions.
Right.
And Demi's like, I think I dealt with that. I had a couple Lings in the main, a couple Queens. But most of his Queens, if you could just pause for a split second here. Tiny pause. Actually, most of his Queens are all the way over here at the minimap. All the way in the left bottom side at his third base. And that makes it very hard. He underestimated the drop in the main. We can continue with this drop right now. And this goes on for quite some time, James.
Yeah.
I would most likely say, keep an eye on the clock. Right now, this starts at 5:07, right? And this is going to do a lot of damage, James. Not necessarily the most direct damage ever. It's not like the entire drone line got absolutely ravaged. But this just goes on and on and on. And this is very valuable time in this phase in the game. That Zerg economy needs to explode. It needs to snowball. It's not. It's running away. It's quite the opposite of snowballing. I mean, this has been going on for a solid 30 seconds at this point. The drones are still not mining in the main. And against somebody like Special, you don't want to call games over, but that's kind of the end. This is what happens barely a minute and a half later. This army is simply unstoppable.
And then there's even Cloak Banshees, what I saw actually following that up as well. So constant scary problems that someone like Demi has to deal with.
Yeah, he simply couldn't keep up. It just felt that Special was a little too good, or Special is just playing way too good today. As game number 1, well, if you thought game number 1 looked one-sided and dominant from Special, game 2 was even more of a dominant performance. There are 2 evolution chambers here. We can pause this real quick. These evo chambers obviously are supposed to keep the Hellions out. There are supposed to be queens here on hold position, but just like it was in game number 1, the queens were out of position. They were once again at the third base. So these Hellions are like, mineral line? Natural? We can just drive in, you know? There's no fee today.
Not bad.
All right, let's do it. So we can play on this clip, and yeah, this gets very painful. The Helbets did a lot in game 1, but these Hellions, James, they do more.
Bit of a shame. And is this the entire tale of this series? Because at the moment it's looking like it.
And you can also see that at this point, nerves are taking the best of Demi, because you see the 2 evo chambers here, correct? Look what we have in the main. There are 2 more evo chambers. Now, I know a lot of Zerg builds, but the quadruple evo chamber build, that's not one that I'm super familiar with. So I think you can really see that Demi lacks the experience at the big international level. This kind of fell apart a little bit. At this point, he felt, well, what can I do? You know, I have 25 drones, may as well go for an all-in. Didn't work out. Last game, however, though, quite a fun one.
It seems like when we were mentioning before that Special has a good bracket to try and go through, Demi was not a stumbling block at all.
I don't know the exact numbers, but I think in all 6 TVZs that Special played today, I don't think he lost more than 5 SCVs.
Oof.
He's just not being attacked. He is the one doing the attacking. He's the one keeping his opponents at edge. This is the one game where he did once again that ghost opening that we saw in Leipzig. He used it against Snoot. We saw it earlier today against Pen and BME. And I actually felt that Demi was kind of holding his own here. This really didn't look all that bad. But Special's execution is just so good. Did such a phenomenal job in keeping his push alive. And at one point, all of these units are like one hit away from falling.
Right.
But they don't fall, and they once again just do a tremendous amount of economic damage.
Yeah, when you've got 3 ghosts, I suppose, still alive, still just kind of banking up and being able to keep themselves alive against this, it looks pretty scary and formidable.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you know, you have the Banes, you have the Lynx, but they all disappear. And once again, we're looking at a bunch of Hellions in an exposed mineral line, which means a lot of these drones are going to fall. And Special is so damn good that if he gets this kind of damage done early on, he's going to follow it up with a stronger attack, and he just can't deal with it.
Very impressive stuff. And it just continues from there, I suppose. Come on, damage, more damage.
Yep, a few more Hellions, and I think a minute and a half later, that series ended as well. All 3 games, very short. Like I said before, great opportunity for Demi, and I honestly think that he learned so much from playing a best of 5 against somebody as good as Special on this level. But Special, I think, before this tournament, a lot of people looked at him as a dangerous contender. I think we may start to have to call him amongst one of the favorites, together with the Koreans and maybe Stero, because Special is looking mighty fine in these games.
Seems that way. Well, thank you very much, Rodam, for that recap as we keep you up to date as much as possible here at the Intel Extreme Masters PyeongChang. For now, we're going to go to a short break, and when we return, more StarCraft action.
StarCraft is a real-time strategy